Ready for start set?
Yep. Sorry, that was not a smooth pour. That was pretty poor.
Just the HD gulp that I heard. That's wonderful. All right.
I spilled half of that on myself too, but it's off screen, so it doesn't matter.
All right, everybody, let's start. Let's talk about some must-start players. Jacob, you already gave me your sleepers, but some must-starts here. I'm looking over your list, brother, and let me tell you, I don't know if it's the cold weather getting to your brain or what, but we're gonna have to talk through some of these now. First one on this list, Tua Tagovailoa. Uh, you know what? Sell it to me. Why is he a must-start this week?
So first things first, I knew that you were going to want to push back on Tua because I know you're not big on his skill set, but this is all about matchup, Joe. The Commanders have allowed at least 250 passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns in each of their last 4 games. And the team has also lost a couple of starting cornerbacks in back-to-back weeks. Marshawn Lattimore tore his ACL, and Trey Amos, a talented rookie second rounder, broke his fibula. So he's not going to be available for this game. He's probably not going to be available long term. They just do not have the cornerback talent needed to contain Jalen Waddle. And we've seen Tua perform at a better level in recent weeks. He's not going to be maybe the explosive threat we've seen in previous seasons, but in 6 of his last 9 games, he has multiple touchdowns. That's enough for me to look at this matchup and say, hey, this is a top tier quarterback matchup, and say, Tua's going to have a high floor in this game, and his ceiling should be higher than usual. So I think that makes him a quality streamer, and he should be a top 10 fantasy quarterback this week. Maybe weeks beyond, we'll see if that bounces back at all, but I think for at least this week, you can trust Tua.
Tell me, Jacob, moving forward, what's the outlook with Jalen Waddle? I mean, we've had a sizable sample now with Tyreek Hill out. What's the connection like? What can fantasy managers expect out of Waddle moving forward?
Yeah, I think he's still going to be that high volume target in that Miami offense. Now, when I say high volume, that doesn't mean he's going to get double digit targets every week, solely because the way the Dolphins are built right now, they're going to want to run the ball more, and they're going to want to get the ball to Devon Achane out of the backfield as a receiver too. So we're talking about Waddle being a guy who'll probably get 6 to 10 targets most games, but his downfield speed and game breaking ability still make him a quality receiver. And he'll have enough volume to be, I think, a consistent wide receiver too. Now, some weeks when the Miami offense doesn't show up, he's going to be maybe a lower end flex play. And some weeks when they do show up, he can get himself into the wide receiver 1 territory. So there's going to be some volatility with him, but he's going to be a guy that you can plug into your lineup and expect, hey, I'm going to get a certain amount of production out of him. His floor is high enough to justify playing him pretty much in every week.
I just don't know how anybody can trust Tua at this point, I think, is the thing. Fantasy or not, like I get your logic is very sound, right? Like
Right.
I think all fantasy advice is just about the logic and the matchups, because you can't predict Tua going out there and getting hurt the first quarter. For me, looking at Tua, I say he's going to give a defense opportunities every week. It doesn't matter what defense they're playing. He's going to throw a ball that you're just looking at the TV, say, how could you throw that pass, right? So I don't know. Again, Jacob, you're the school of no risk it, no biscuits, so I can support it. I just don't trust it, but I see your logic behind it. All right, Jacob, let's move down to the Houston Texans. And again, another offense that has been under the microscope this season, but running back Woody Marks makes your must-start list this week. Tell fantasy managers why he's a safe pick.
Yeah, so Marks has had a little bit of an up and down rookie season, so this might scare some people off, but he's averaging 73 scrimmage yards a game over his last 2 outings. And I just think this Tennessee defense isn't very good, and they've struggled against the run at times. Now, they've been better with Tavondre Sweat in the lineup, and I think it's important to note that because, we saw a couple weeks ago, Kamani Vidal, everyone going into the Chargers-Titans game was saying, oh, Kamani Vidal is going to have a huge game against this defense, and it was kind of a dud for him. But the difference between Vidal and Marks is a little bit better of a weapon out of the backfield. He sort of operates in that receiving role far more than Nick Chubb does at this point in his career for the Texans. So I think Marks is going to get a high volume of touches, and he'll have a shot to get into the end zone because even with Sweat, the Titans have allowed 12 rushing touchdowns to running backs this season and the second most fantasy points per game for the position. So I think Marks has a pretty solid floor this week. And again, his ceiling, it's going to be tied to the touchdowns, but he should have a chance to get one.
All right, Jacob. So we talked about your sleepers and your must starts, but let's talk about some must sits, guys, that fantasy managers around should avoid this week. Now, Seattle has been the talk of the NFC this year just because of the connection between Sam Darnold and Jackson Smith and Jigba, but doesn't sound like you're too high on their running game this week.
Yeah, I'm thinking Kenneth Walker is going to be a sit this week. It's just a tough matchup for him. He has not scored a touchdown since week 3, which seems hard to believe because the Seahawks like to run the ball when they can. And Kenneth Walker, yeah, he splits carries with Zach Charbonnet, but he's really their lead back in that 60-40 split. But this just seems like a bad spot for him to try to get back into the end zone. The Rams have only allowed one rushing touchdown to running backs the entire season, which is just remarkable to me at this point in the year. And I'm also kind of expecting the Rams defense to be able to pressure Sam Darnold and put him in situations that he won't find as much success in. So I don't know that the Seahawks are going to be able to run the ball as well this game. So I just kind of want to keep Walker on the bench if I can.
Two teams entering this game on 4-game winning streaks, Jacob. So it's the NFC West right here, man. When you think about it, right? Seahawks are going to need something. So we'll see how it shakes out. Let's head over to the AFC West now, Jacob. And Cortland Sutton with the Broncos is a must-sit this week. Now, again, some questions about Bo Nix this season. He's been pretty up and down. Sutton is a guy who you're clearly not trusting, right?
Yeah, this is kind of a 2-for-1. I'm sitting Sutton and I'm sitting Bo Nix in this one. I just don't trust either against the Chiefs defense. Sutton, it's a tough matchup for him. The Chiefs have allowed a league low 955 receiving yards to wideouts this season. And Sutton's just cooled off after a strong start to the season. He's averaging just 3 catches for 45 yards over his last 5 games. And he's only scored once, which came against the Texans, which is, impressive enough. But, he's kind of let fantasy managers down. And it's not really his fault. Bo Nix isn't looking his way enough. He seems more comfortable throwing to his former college teammate, Troy Franklin, who's having a great season, don't get me wrong. But I would like to see Bo Nix and Sean Payton try to force feed Cortland Sutton a little bit more, like sort of what we were talking about with Marvin Harrison Jr. For the Broncos to reach their full potential, they have to get Sutton the ball more. I'm just not confident that's going to happen, and especially in this type of matchup where the Chiefs defense is playing really well, and Andy Reid is 22-4 coming off of a bye during his career, so he knows how to plan after it. Just not willing to trust Sutton and the Broncos here.
All right, and let's head to the other half of that matchup. And Xavier Worthy is a must-sit for you this week. A little surprising, but I'm sure you have good logic, sound logic to explain why the speedy wide receiver shouldn't play.
Yeah, so the Broncos have allowed the fewest fantasy points per game to wide receivers this year. It's not a surprise. Denver has arguably the best defense in the NFL. I know Patrick Surtain is still dealing with an injury and might not play in this game, but I just don't think that 2 wide receivers on the same team are going to have consistent success against the Broncos this year. Rashee Rice has been the best receiver in Kansas City by far since returning from his suspension, and Worthy across those games since Rice's return is averaging just 3.7 catches and 37 receiving yards per game. He hasn't found the end zone, so I just think it's a little risky to start him in a tough matchup here. There will be times to back him down the stretch. I assume Kansas City will look to get him the ball, maybe in shorter yardage where he can catch it and just get down the field with his speed. But for now, I'm just going to recommend sitting him this week.
All right, partner. You're looking more and more like a cowboy with no hat every week, friend, even though you're wearing a small hat. Last week, Big Take Jake, you said Rome Odunze would blow past his season high for receiving yards. That didn't quite happen. But you got to take another shot. You got plenty of bullets left in that pistol, partner. Let's hear what you got. Big Take Jake this week.
All right, partner. We're rolling with a big game from Bijan Robinson. Week 10 sort of clipped his horns as Tyler Algier got the glory with 2 touchdowns despite Bijan out-carrying him. Felt like he was left with jack squat. That ought to have the Texas product looking to remind the big bug what he's capable of. Expect Bijan to get 150-plus scrimmage yards, get back on the scoreboard for the first time since Week 7, and ride into Week 12 full as a tick after sucking the life out of the Carolina Panthers.